Entertalk Radio, you're in to all things music.
The more you can just target your message to something they can digest really fast, and don't overhype, don't include everything. The same thing happens with bands. If you can't overhype, don't use too much hyperbole. You might think your band is the best band ever, the product, but let the journalists make their own decision. Journalists don't like to be told what the best of anything is. They like to figure that out themselves.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Happy Friday, everybody. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. And I am Scott, your host, and a man with a plan and a bass guitar in his hand. And I have two people on the air with me today. The first in the booth, we have Cedric the Engineer, who is no relation, as I understand, to Cedric the Entertainer. How's it going, Cedric?
Unfortunately, yes, you're right. No relations.
No relation. Last week, we were working on your tagline, but I like Cedric the Engineer.
All right, we'll go with that.
You can put that on your business card.
Sounds good.
And here on episode 50 of May the Best Brand Win, I have my very first guest with me on the air, the lovely and talented journalist and former editor-in-chief at Electronic Musician Magazine and a whole bunch of other stuff, Miss Sarah Jones. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, everybody. I'm
How
also
you doing?
not related to Cedric the Entertainer, unfortunately.
Nobody on the show is related to Cedric the Entertainer, just so we can clarify. We got a way to clarify that. Well, it's great to have you on the show, Sarah, and we are going to talk today about journalism, and I call this show The Fake News. So we'll dig into it. Do a little bit of housekeeping before we do that. If you have a question for me out in Radio Land, you can always email me at scott@robertsoncom2ms.com, and I will answer anything right on the show. And you can also find all of my stuff, my client news clips, other stuff I'm up to at the Robertson.com Facebook page or Twitter. No surprise, at Robertson.com with 2 M's. Reach out and connect. Hopefully I can entertain you a bit, give you some tips like we usually do here on the show. Now, I'm really excited about the show. As I mentioned, I have my very first guest in 50 episodes, and it's just been me. So now I'm spreading my wings, so to speak. And we're going to talk about journalism. So I thought I'd bring a real live journalist in with us today. Journalism was once a fact-based, unbiased way to talk about newsworthy events and attract an audience. But as the Pew Research numbers have shown in the Gallup polls, as we're going to talk about in this segment, the credibility of journalism really continues to plummet, which sort of affects a lot of different things. And it's a big topic, so I brought in the big guns, Sarah. And Sarah is, as I mentioned in the top of the show, let's just talk about who Sarah is first. So she bills herself as a music industry content strategist right now. She is been around the music industry, quite a bit of time with New Bay Media, and also looks like working with the Grammys as education chair on the board of governors with the Recording Academy.
Yeah, that's right. Up in the San Francisco chapter.
The San Francisco chapter, very cool. And you were editor-in-chief of Mix, and you were the editor-in-chief of Electronic Musician, and now you're the editor-in-chief of whatever the hell it is you want to do next. That's what I'm talking about. So
of my ship, that's right.
There you go. It's fun, isn't it? And then you're like, wait, I have to eat. How am I gonna eat?
Right.
So how's it going for you as a kind of a freelancer out there and doing your own thing now, Sarah? How's it going?
It's actually a good time, I think, to be a freelance content provider because so many people are looking for content for so many different channels. And it's been a great chance to diversify and sort of get into new areas. It's just, I'm meeting a lot of new people. I'm working with a lot of new creative types, and it's a lot of fun.
Excellent. And you have more than 20 years of experience in the recording community. You can talk about a lot of the deep gear tech stuff. There's very few folks that really have mastery over that, vocabulary and have that experience. So I'm sure you're people are wanting to fill your dance card right and left, I imagine.
Yeah,
hopefully,
it's definitely a niche industry, that's for sure.
I hope they'll hear you on the show, and somebody will want to work with you as well, because I have almost 2 listeners. Between my mom and my brother, we're almost up to 2, depending on what's going on in their day. No, I'm just kidding.
You might get Cedric the Entertainer after today. I don't know.
I hope so. And he could bring in a lot of sponsors. Like he right now he's the voice of like some diabetic foot pain medicine. That's a sought after product that any radio show would want to have on there. It's very exciting. So let's talk about journalism, shall we?
Yes.
So in segment 1, I call this segment journalism. What the hell happened? And that's really my question. I'll set you up here, and then you can go with it. But the numbers on journalism have really been plummeting, and particularly over the last year. Basically, only about 2 in 10 Americans, 22%, trust the information that they're getting from news organizations. Now, whether you're looking at the Gallup numbers or the Pew Research numbers, or anything, you see this trend in sort of mainstream journalism. The Gallup numbers actually, the headlines that were in September say Americans' trust in mass media sinks to all-time new low. And then, of course, obviously, so much of this is tied to politics and a really contentious, gnarly presidential election cycle, where in the past I've seen the numbers drop off during election cycle, but never quite fallen off the cliff like we are now. So Sarah, my question to you is that journalism as a profession, trust numbers are way down. What do you think's happening over there?
Well, I think we sort of can trace this all back to the beginning of the internet first, and then the evolution of, I think, social media. And because, as we all know, with the rise of the internet, we're overloaded with information, and we all have the ability to curate information. And so on one end, you have people, the consumers of this information. I think in a lot of cases, it's human nature to want confirmation of what you think is right. And so you sort of build your news feed and your community around like-minded people a lot of time. And then on the news provider end, news has always been a business, to be honest. And so, but there's always been legitimate media outlets who have been able to build successful business out of objective reporting. But with, I think, the ability to reach, billions of people who are seeking out emotional content that resonates with them, content that aligns with what they believe, there's definitely been that's led to a rise of news that's driven by agenda and also just by purely profit. I think news organizations are measuring profit differently now based on traffic. It's it's sort of like it feeds on itself. It's sort of, I think it's partly a cultural thing. It's a technological thing. It's sort of a perfect storm of, and then with the contentious election and the celebrity culture, it's all sort of feeding together.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting you mentioned social media, because for the longest time, I was always thinking that, people are believing a lot of things that they're seeing on social media. From a survey just this year from Pew Research, social media is actually trusted by a slim minority, according to their numbers. And of course, this is people telling them what they trust. So, grain of salt, but only 4% of web using adults. I love that hyphenated term, by the way, web using adults. Isn't that adults? I mean, web using adults. Right. I love that. So 4% of web using adults have a lot of trust in the information they find on social media. 4%. And that rises to only 7% among those who get news on these sites. So the trust numbers really don't fare much better on social media. And I think it's a really interesting, it's a really interesting phenomenon. I went to journalism school, at the University of Missouri School of Journalism, and I was always taught, in my journalism classes, ferociously, honestly, that my opinion was not welcome. was not appropriate, was not welcome, was not even hinted at. And I was always sort of taught, now this was newspaper journalism, you know what I mean? But I obviously, when you see, things like, and the tech side of things like Gizmag and Gizmodo and CNET, I mean, they really, write some pretty sensationalistic headlines that don't just report the news, but they really push an agenda. What is your feeling about that in terms of, and did you have to fight that a lot? You're editor in chief. Did you see it as your role to provide that opinion, or are you just reporting the news on gear and stuff like that, an electronic musician? I mean, how did you see it?
I think opinion and context are different things. So I think we're looking for an authoritative voice to provide a context in the news based on their expertise. That said, I think there's definitely room for opinion in the news when you're looking at reviewing products or bands or that kind of.
Sure, of course.
But as far as just straight objective reporting, I think we have to be careful to separate opinion and context. And I think there's room for opinion in editorials, and columns and those kind of things. But it's hard for a consumer now to differentiate between that kind of content and straight reporting because of the way it's presented.
Yeah, I think you're right. And do you think that, as you mentioned, journalism is a business. Do you think economics are playing a larger role and sort of, kind of, do you think that there's more of a, hey, if we write the headline this way, we get more clicks and we get more advertisers and we get more stuff. And so or are those things pretty much separate still, do you think?
I think it does play more of a role. And I think even the most legitimate outlets are tailoring their presentation, whether that's through, search engine optimization styled headlines or clickbait headlines, given lack of space or trying to appeal to someone with a lack of attention span. Regardless of your agenda or lack of agenda, I think there's still, it's like the medium's the message, right?
Yeah. So, absolutely. No, I agree with you. I think, I did a show on bias, and I was just trying because, I think around the election time, there was a lot of talk about, there's bias and that kind of thing. And I was trying to let everybody know that everybody has bias. Bias is, there's no way that you can be a human being and not see the world the way that you see it. Our eyes sort of project instead of see. And I think that if you're, a journalist, obviously you can work hard to remove that and kind of make it a binary kind of story, but there's always going to be a little bit of that. I think that, and as you said, there's certainly a role for, for an opinion. If you have a trusted news brand, they're kind of telling you, this is what we think this story means kind of thing too. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Right. No, it's just, I think it's important to, it's sort of the responsibility lies on the audience to, to educate themselves and not, rely on feeding your own, your own bias. And, it's important to seek out opposing views. And I think that kind of perspective is being chipped away at with the, that onslaught of internet information, whether it's, whether it's straight reporting or whether you're being bombarded with tweets that are, 140 characters trying to encapsulate a larger story, whether it's memes. There's so many different ways that you're being fed information, and it really does, the responsibility falls on yourself as a consumer of news to sort of seek out the objective truth and recognize it for what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that perspective. Well, so I hit you with the trust numbers, from Gallup and Pew and all these kind of things that of course made news stories of their own about sort of trust in the media falling. Now that's the political side, of the national media, where the trust numbers have fallen off in the greatest numbers. Do you think that there is a trickle down? Obviously public relations and now on the content marketing side of things, the stuff that you're doing now is public relations is dependent upon we ride in on the shoulders of the media. We try to get our client's message and earn our way into news stories. But if the media aren't trusted, then that whole effort, that's what we're trying to get. We're trying to get the trust of media when we're doing that stuff. Do you think there's a trickle down to some of the stuff that we work on, that you and I work on a day-to-day basis, some of the trade and enthusiast outlets in the music products industry and the professional sound and recording industry? Is there a trickle down, or do people still generally trust those, do you feel?
I do think there's a trickle down to some extent. I think, when somebody looks at a magazine and they see an ad for a manufacturer in a magazine, and maybe in that same issue they see a product review, I think the more cynical in the audience may assume, and sometimes rightly so, that those are tied together. But the trade business is the trade publishing is certainly relies on advertising. So I think the best editors out there really try to maintain integrity and keep that separate. And I think there's a way to provide and tell a story that's a win-win situation. You can be a media partner with a manufacturer and also tell the true story, an objective story for your universe of readers.
Yeah, I always try to counsel my clients. Sometimes my clients who aren't as savvy about public relations, for example, they'll say, well, we're advertising, so the magazine really has to do what we want and say what we want and that kind of thing. And I say, that's exactly what you do not want. I said, what we want is we want them to come to their own opinion, and we want that opinion to be positive about what we're doing, because our job here is to earn our way onto the, is not to buy our way, but to earn our way. And if we, and sometimes, and it's fine if you want to support that with some advertising, but I'm always real clear about, I don't even like to handle advertising budgets for that reason, because I am scared to death, to be quite honest, of the fact that, we're spending all of this time working with the media to try to get something done. And the worst thing in the world that it would be is if somebody thought that it was disingenuous and that we were not, and the editor didn't really think that and didn't really, pick that product and didn't really feel that way. If they don't feel that way, I'd rather they don't even cover our stuff at all. That's my it destroys trust all around. It doesn't do anybody any favors ultimately. It might be a quick money grab, but no amount of advertising is going to undo that kind of damage in the long term. And I think especially in the pro audio and the professional musician markets, people are really, I think they have their hackles up already and they're sort of expecting to be fed that a little bit, so I think it just legitimizes the industry. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sarah, we're at the end of our first segment. It went by so fast. Hey, we're going to talk about the journalist hackles coming back in segment 3, but segment 2, we're going to talk about who's winning and losing. So right now, you're tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Radio. Come on back for segment 2. Sarah and I are going to tell you who's winning and losing. See you in a few.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Entertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on entertalkradio.com.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Happy Friday, everybody. You are wisely tuned right back into May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, your host. With me is the lovely and talented Miss Sarah Jones. Sarah,
Hello.
How are you doing out there?
Hi, everybody.
And Cedric, the engineer, is still making sure we are coming out live from La Jolla, California. How are things in La Jolla today, Cedric?
Sunny, nice and windy. No anomalies, you know? Everything's good.
No anomalies. We like that. We like that.
The one time I was driving a show, I guess the host was in Nashville? Yeah, Nashville. And,
all right.
Man, there was like a thunderstorm. The power went out. Like, anomalies everywhere, man.
Anomalies.
Yep.
We never like that. They get tornadoes in Nashville, usually around summer NAMM time too. I noticed that. So, well, yay. Okay, well we're here. We are talking about this is episode 50. We're talking about the fake news, but we're going to take a little break and we're going to talk about some of the things that are making news in winning and losing here. And Sarah's going to help me. So, we got to start off with Adidas. Adidas, never underestimate a brand's ability to do something that's crazy and tone deaf. And the latest one comes from Adidas, who sent an email out last Tuesday with the subject line to a bunch of folks that were participating in the Boston Marathon. Congrats, you survived the Boston Marathon. No. No. That's so bad. That's so bad. And then, of course, they had to what they have to do after this came out. Everybody was, just grabbed it and threw it up all over social media, and it became a big public relations crisis. But think twice before you do stuff. That's why you have editors, right, Sarah? You make sure that you run it by a second set of eyes, so you don't say something.
Some kind of system of checks and balances, right?
Checks and balances would be very, very useful. Well, cool. So we're going to put them in losing. In kind of winning or kind of combating losing, I guess, in the age of fake news, there's a story about media brands that are turning to advertising to promote the importance of journalism. And I thought this was appropriate for our show. Gannett Publications, who owns USA Today and a bunch of radio stations and stuff like that, they are releasing a campaign touting its publications' efforts and showing how they are impacting the communities they cover. And really, I think it's fascinating. You have news outlets now that are running advertising campaigns that say, and now you should seriously believe us. We're trusted. The Wall Street Journal changed its tagline to America's most trusted newspaper, trusted news source, things like that. So I think it's an interesting phenomenon to see. I guess you put it in winning certainly for the outlets that are getting the extra advertising from media outlets, which normally carry advertising and are not the subject of advertising. What do you think, Sarah?
I think it's a whole new world. I think this never would have happened, 10 years ago. But it's also we're also being. It's getting harder and harder to differentiate between an ad experience and just your experience. You've seen like in video advertising on YouTube, or whether that's, in music videos that have, band placement. It's just, there's such a gray area now. And, maybe it's smart for them to, this would have been unheard of a decade ago. Maybe it's the way they're going to penetrate the minds.
Yeah. And I guess it would be one of the tougher assignments. Like if you're the marketing person and they come to you, like you're the marketing communications person and you're working for Gannett and they say, we need to increase our credibility. You're like, well, we're the place where people come to increase their credibility. So,
Right.
so now, so it's really kind of an odd, it's an odd play. And the oddest play to me is the fact that they use something that is not necessarily a public relations and content is a much stronger play in terms of increasing credibility. Advertising is far down the chain. Advertising does have that one cool element of absolute control over the message that makes everybody feel warm and fuzzy and comfortable about it. But I think I think the tactic is kind of interesting. It's not, to me, it's not exactly what I would use. But then again, other media probably aren't going to cover your media outlet as to why, and I mean, they're in a situation where they probably get boxed out of public relations unless it's in their own publication,
Well, it does certainly, it seems, media doesn't really get press unless it's negative,
Yeah, true. True.
So I don't know. It doesn't seem like, it seems a little bit like counterintuitive, but I guess time will tell and see if this tactic actually works.
Time will tell. Time will tell.
Yeah.
They'll start to do like a public service campaign and say, this is why you should believe newspapers. And Well, we're going to put that in, like I said, we'll put that in losing, but we'll put it in winning for the people getting the advertising revenue, because no question about that. Right. Let's talk about California hospitals. I don't know if you saw this story or not, Sarah, but California recently released safety grades for all of its hospitals. And the local media jumped all over this because there's nothing like a fear, let's scare the hell out of everybody kind of story to really get people tuning in. But the thing that I want to talk, the reason I think it's losing is the fact that, I would just assume that all hospitals are where you would go to become more healthy. And as it turns out, they grade them on things like medical errors, accidents, injuries, infections. And they see how many cases actually get worse after showing up at a hospital. And to me, that is scary beyond words. Of the 271 California hospitals that were graded, only 68 of them received an A. 6 of them received an F, meaning people came in, got worse, probably died. And in between, there were 79 B hospitals, 93 Cs, and 25 Ds.
And who is doing the grading of this?
Absolutely. It's a company called Leapfrog, and Leapfrog, goes around grading. I didn't even know they graded hospitals on and had a letter system of whether people would get sicker after checking into a hospital. I mean, you hear about that time to time, but you didn't think it would happen so often that it would require a grading system.
Yeah. Grading systems are difficult because, on one end, you folks in LA are used to the restaurant grading systems, which are pretty objective and Board of Health standards. And, but then on the other end, you've got like peer reviews, a Yelp review, or, people tend to, I feel like people don't often grade or rate something unless it's negative. That often is what motivates someone to respond or just even participate in that system. And so somewhere in between, I guess, is this hospital rating system. And every system is no system is 100% perfect. The mail is not 100% perfect. But to focus on, I don't know what to call these, the dings, however significant they are. I mean, how do you quantify? It may be telling, maybe there's some, I guess somebody has to go to the worst hospital out there, but.
Oh my God. I know it scared me to death. And then I looked at, you should check out the story, and all you readers at home, you should check out the story too. They did it nationally. I'm just reporting on the California story, but just so you know, the hospital safety grade story is everywhere. They graded every hospital in the country on this whole thing. And, it was frightening. I put the whole thing in losing. I didn't even know that was a thing. And I didn't even know it was possible for that to be a thing. I think that's really scary. So anyway, I put it in losing just for that reason. Should we talk about Bill O'Reilly for a second? Bill O'Reilly's losing a bit at this week. So Bill O'Reilly, a commentator for a long time on Fox News, he's out at Fox News. Apparently, Fox is parting ways with Bill, who was one of the most popular hosts of the network. So this is around some settlements and some sexual harassment allegations. Kind of interesting. I mean, kind of an interesting story that the fact that this is all going on, and then the way they reported it, of course, was the fact that Bill O'Reilly, both I love the corporate statement. After a thorough and careful review of the allegations, the company and Bill O'Reilly have agreed that Bill O'Reilly will not be returning to the Fox News Channel. We've all agreed that he's, done some sexually harassing things to women. I'm guessing that is.
Yeah. I mean, he hasn't been convicted, but he settled with them, and I think in a lot of people's minds that's the same thing.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that it wasn't so much that he was he was such a strong brand for them. And Fox is really the only really major cable source for conservatives, and I think he really strengthened their message. But I think this is a great example of consumers mobilizing and threatening to ban advertiser products. I think the advertisers pulling out were what ultimately led to him being ousted. I think in my opinion it seems like that was the determining factor a lot more than any kind of corporate culture or anything like that.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think those kind of things, when those kind of things happen, a bunch of bigwigs kind of get in the room and they, sort of weigh the downside risk of keeping him and look at the facts of the case and sort of make their decision from there. It looks like, I guess we can put him in the winning column. I put him in the losing column, but he's going to get a $25 million payout.
So, and a gig somewhere else. Yeah.
and certainly will not be his last gig. So, so you're right.
I think he goes in the winning column probably. Unfortunately,
I put him in the winning. Yeah, I guess so. Well, we had to talk about
consumers also go in the winning column as far as this goes. I think consumers have it's been so much easier for them to make their voices heard and mobilize with like the grab my wallet hashtags and voicing their concerns to advertisers and saying we're not going to support you, we're not going to support your shoes, we're not going to support your retailer.
Yeah,
and they're seeing results and it's happening faster and faster, and so I think they fall in the winning column too.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. That's a good point. Well, let's switch. Here's something that's kind of, I don't know if it's winning or losing or what, but it's kind of weird. Neuroscience now can curate music based on your brain waves, not necessarily your stated musical taste. I found this story kind of, which came out from Reuters this week, kind of interesting. So companies and composers now have begun using software to make music that's customized to your brain waves. So you'll be able to plug into your headphones, lean back, and kind of listen to a playlist that's like synchronized with your brain's chemistry. Yeah, that's not scary. That increases your productivity, your sleep quality, and even fights anxiety. Yikes. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't think of anything creepier. I gotta say, on the creepiness scale, I can't think of anything creepier than some geek's algorithm poking around in my brain, figuring out what my brain chemistry wants, and then I'm almost scared to death of what that music taste might be. I mean, what if it's like, I know what I think my music taste is, but like, what if your brain chemistry was like, and you came up with like, metal driven polkas or something. I mean, and they're like, well, you're just that messed up, dude.
Yeah, maybe.
What do you think about this crazy one? Yes, exactly.
The thing that I wonder is what they can do with the information they get from your brain's response. Then where does that go?
I know, because it's not like they're going to use it responsibly. As we talk about many times on the show, marketers want their hands on a lot on data, and they do a lot of creepy things with it. I was at this is not related to this story, but I was at a seminar this week, and it was a financial company seminar, and they were talking about the speaker was there talking about all the this algorithm that collects all this information on consumers. About their buying habits and about their, their family habits, and it pulls all this information from social media and all this kind of stuff, and it develops this profile. And then he's like, and we can figure out, when somebody might need to, get a loan, and then we can serve up that message just at exactly the right time. And I'm sitting there in the audience going, this is wrong. This is not what you should be doing. You're way past the line of ethical marketing, in my opinion. I don't know. What do you that creeps me out. That stuff is creepy to me.
It is, but our privacies are being violated on so many levels, more and more every day. Look what just happened with our, the ISP providers, in providing data. I mean, it just but to get inside your head, definitely is sort of like the last frontier, right?
Jeez, I'm scared of brainwaves. I went to a thing at CES and they said that you could control, it had little sensors that you could put on your head and you could start to kind of control things, using your brain. And I know there's a lot of people that are playing around with doing things with brainwaves. Facebook did a big, Zuckerberg did a huge kind of 10-year vision plan for Facebook. And he's absolutely talking about getting inside your head and being able to kind of get to the source and get to your brain, for these kind of posts. And I don't know, it's so sci-fi and creepy to me. I just can't see it being used responsibly,
Yeah. Yeah. That's agree.
Why.
Although there may be some interesting musical instruments come out of it.
Exactly. Pretty soon they'll be like, oh, you don't even, it's like the Matrix, you don't even need to know how to play the guitar or the bass. We'll just upload it into your brain chemistry and now you know how to play it, and then all the musicians will be complaining and going, I suffered for years learning how to play that stuff in the clubs and now the kids can just upload how to play, these songs.
Right.
That's going to be a scary day. I hope I'm retired by then. I hope I'm dead by then. That'd be nice, I just want to throw that out there.
I'm not giving away my piano anytime soon.
Did you know, Sarah, that Facebook is looking to hire a head of news products to combat fake news? They're looking for like a fake news czar. And they're having a lot of trouble finding the person, as it turns out. Did you know that?
Well, it's hard to underestimate how powerful Facebook is in the whole news cycle. There's like 2 billion, I think the number is literally 2 billion people a month log into Facebook, and their algorithms and their systems from their, from their point and from the user point, just, further feed, the interactions, like focus the interactions. And, they've already introduced a few sort of, filters and some tools for people to sort of flag it, but it's definitely not enough. And it's great.
Yeah,
and I wonder why they can't find somebody. That seems like a job a lot of people would jump at the chance to.
Yeah, it says there, the story that I read, which was in USA Today or Reuters or something, said that Facebook was talking to veterans of both the tech and the media industries, and it's having a lot of trouble finding somebody with both the news and the tech chops that are necessary to fill the role. And, remember how Facebook wanted to know how people curate stories, so they hired a bunch of, like last year or something, or year before last, they hired a bunch of people who curate news and do content marketing and stuff like that. And they put them in a room and they sort of observed them. And then they had a news algorithm replace their role so then they could fire them. Yes, that's who's winning and losing this week, kids, on May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Radio. The undisputed leader on Music Biz Talk. Come on back in segment 3. Sarah is going to share her top tips for working with fake and real journalists everywhere. You're not going to want to miss that, so we'll see you in a few minutes.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Entertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on entertalkradio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Happy Friday. You are straight back with May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, your host, driving to the end of this lovely show, episode 50, with Miss Sarah Jones, who's been with me on the whole show today. Are you having fun, Sarah? Is it fun for you?
I'm having a blast.
Yay. We like that. We like that so much. So good. We talked, the first segment, of course, we talked about, kind of journalism, what happened, The title of this show is The Fake News. We've been talking about it all day. Then in segment 2, we hit a few things about the fake news and all kinds of other weird stuff on winning and losing. But here in segment 3, I always like to make it about you guys out in radio land and give you guys some real useful takeaways and some tips. And I call this, this is Sarah Jones, top tips for working with both fake and real journalists, depending on who you find yourself working with. And we're gonna have us a good time here. So, actually, before I get into that, I just want to say that it's been awesome having Sarah on the show today. She's having a good time. She is a music industry content strategist. She is, she was the former editor of Electronic Musician, worked for New Bay Media for a long time. A real expert in terms of the music products industry and the pro sound and an audio industry as well. And it says right now on your LinkedIn that you're exploring new opportunities. Does that mean that somebody might snap you up and hire you again, or are you too excited about wearing bunny slippers and yoga pants?
It's funny, I'm wearing yoga pants right now.
It's Friday.
I'm definitely enjoying the freelance world, but I'm definitely, feel free to reach out to me anytime. It's hiresarahjones@gmail.com. And if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, it's at JONESSE.
Very cool. Very cool. I love your email, by the way. Hire Sarah Jones. It's like, it does not. And also you can go to your website, which is hiresarahjones.com. I mean, it doesn't get any more direct than that, people. It's like, here I am, hire me. I like it.
Thank you. Cut to the chase.
That is awesome. Well, good. See, there is life after working, as an editor in chief for a while too. I think you'll find the, I've been running my business for over 5 years now, and I love the freedom of being able to do it. I love the opportunities that it opens up for me. Some of the things that you just don't get. And again, I just have to say that, you never quite know where life is going to take you in terms of your career and what things are going to happen. But what I have found is, be open to what happens, and it's probably going to be great, and you're going to find yourself doing something that helps people. And I think that is, I'm sure that's what is happening for you, and what's going to continue to happen for you, Sarah.
That's great advice for everybody. It really is.
I know a lot of people that hate their jobs. I know a lot of people that just hate their jobs, and they feel trapped, and they feel like that this work part of what they do is just so they can kind of get somewhere else. And I decided a long time ago, I'm like, life is too short. I'm either going to love it. I'm not going to ever do something that I hate, because I'm going to go play bass before I do that. I'm gonna go and be like, in Hawaii when people go on vacation and they show up at like the resort and there's a band, playing a Hawaiian song. That'll be me playing bass. There
are worse jobs for sure.
Exactly. That's my retirement plan. It's like you're going to come to Kauai and you're going to be like, hey, that guy doesn't look like he's from the islands. I'll be like, no, you're wrong, man. You're wrong. You're wrong. Mahalo. And I'll be rocking that stuff out. It's going to be exciting. Well, good. Well, let's get into your top tips for working with fake and real journalists. Your first tip is do your research. So tell us what you mean by that.
Yeah, well, I just want to sort of preface this by saying whether you make a product or whether you're in a band or whether you're a technologist or anybody who's just trying to connect with journalists, it's a relationship, and it's sort of like the sort of same skills you need when you're looking for a job or dating. It's all about building a long-term relationship and having empathy and understanding how the other person is, their perspective, and how you fit in with that perspective. So the first thing you need to do, is do your research. If you want to be covered by a publication, before reaching out to anybody, make sure the publication is relevant, that your story resonates with the kind of content that they're producing. Whether the timeline is important. If you the genre of music, like if you're a metal band, don't pitch a jazz blogger or a classical magazine. If you make a guitar, don't try to pitch a modern drummer. Understand their focus is and what they're, because they want to serve their readers, and they want to provide their readers something that will resonate with them, that will teach them something, that will resonate emotionally with them. And so find an angle, or find the right match before you even get
excellent. That's great. So do you feel like you're kind of an ultimate public relations weapon because you were an editor-in-chief for so long and you can kind of cut through the crap and just give editors what they want? I think journalists are like that. I think all
journalists are like that. Yeah. We all, publicists and artists and, are all varying levels of experience and, different personalities. And we all sort
that was so diplomatic, tricks, Sarah.
Right? I mean, we know we're being manipulated. Right. People know when they're being manipulated or being, when someone's insincere. I mean, that's just across the board. So, the first thing, you just have to be, the best thing to do in any relationship is to be honest, be straightforward. I get I can't tell you how many times I've gotten trick emails, where someone tries to write to me a bunch of times to get the work address when really just want to connect, or they'll pretend that they're following up on something that we never had a conversation about. And people see right through that. Don't be tricky. Yeah. Just be yourself. I mean, that's what's going to shine through anyway. Just have a story, make sure you have everything together, and be yourself, and make sure you're approaching people who will be interested in you. Not everybody's going to be interested in you. Not everybody is interested in everything. Don't get hurt over that. You might think your music is the best thing in the world, or your product is, everybody needs it, but in reality, it's there really isn't something that appeals to the entire universe. So you recognize that before you even get started, and then sort of plan your strategy accordingly.
Great. Well, tip number 2, you say that it's important to personalize your message. Now, what do you mean by that?
I think this especially applies to, there's certainly a lot of, there's a mechanism where, information needs to be released and shared, whether it's a new product release or a band has a new record, where you might get a press release, you're on a news feed. But moving beyond that, if you want to sort of expand on that relationship, you need to be personal. I can't tell you how many Dear Sir emails I've gotten, or just, form letters with the wrong name in, or it's clear they don't even know the magazine name at all. They just say your magazine, and it just shows a lack of effort. And I think if you can learn the person's name that you're approaching, it's just like a job. If you can find the person's name that you're applying to, it makes a huge difference. And also, it's a lot easier on the receiving end. These editors are bombarded with hundreds of emails every day, and it's really easy to ignore a form letter. It's harder to ignore something that somebody crafted and took the time to write to you personally. So
yeah, absolutely.
And then you can use it as an opportunity to find a hook, right? It's sort of. I had a marketing person who would write to me and send me like 2 sentences. This band is out. I think this will resonate with your audience because it was clear she knew what the audience was, what I had done lately, how it would fit in the context of the other things we were doing. So yeah, definitely make it personal and offer something. If you can offer something unique or exclusive, is always going to be another. It's always going to work to your benefit. It shows you've taken the time to really help them. It's all about sort of making, and I'll talk on this in a tip later, but it's really, you want to make their job as easy as possible, which I'll get to in another tip.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't agree more about, personalizing the message. Even inside, if you look across the trade magazines, in the industry, there are 3 different guitar magazines, but they cover the guitar in different ways. And they look, they have a different, just a different way that they look at it, and that's fine, But as a PR person, as a communications person, if you really value being in one of those channels, you need to be able to personalize it to each one of them and show that you know the way that they're what it is they're trying to do. And that's why sometimes those in-person briefings, like we do at the NAMM show all the time, are so important, because good PR people are always asking, what's the, how's the magazine, overall, what are you guys looking for, at the show, and what is the the theme that you guys are going for, and if you know stuff like that, then you're one step closer to being able to try to get your client to fit in some way, earn your way in some way.
Absolutely. I mean, especially with trade magazines, we're looking for different story angles all the time. Like if you make a product, it might be used with an artist, or it might be on a really interesting session, or is installed in a really cool studio that, and so if you know the different ways, and then meanwhile, I might be looking for a studio roundup, or I might be looking for like a story on recording bass, or, like if you can connect, and it's a give and take, it's definitely, but if you can be recognized as someone who provides like quality content, content leads, then you'll be looked to from these editors that you're forming long-term relationships with, for sure.
So true. Your tip number 3 is less is more.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
As I said, the journalists in any field you probably get 300 emails a day, and each one is a pitch. So you just want to, so not only are they not, they may or may not read, or you might just go into a save file, or if you can just make it something that sort of cuts above that clutter, make it as clear, concise, and focused. You might have like a second and a half where someone's looking at your email. There was a publicist who used to send me a note about a band, and she'd say, here's a link to the new band, and here's a picture of Baby Giraffe, but like something random, just to sort of catch your attention.
And here's a baby giraffe.
It probably doesn't work with everybody, but it was just like a little, it wasn't intrusive. It was just sort of something to catch your eye,
Don't you feel like all public relations people and publicists should like be forced to work on the editorial side for like a summer?
Yes.
Yes. It would make you so, I was a journalist before I ever did marketing and PR, but it changed me before I ever, so I don't think I ever came in with those bad habits, because I was always thinking, oh man, I totally get what that job is, and let's just take it down a notch in terms of all this hype and stuff, because nobody's going to be able to use any of that. It's just worthless words. So I think I personally think that PR should be forced to work in journalism as like an internship or something.
Yeah, and we're talking about people having their hackles up as an audience. The same thing happens with journalists. I mean, they're about to be pummeled. They know every time somebody is reaching out to them, it's because they want coverage. And it's how the system works. But it's they have to work fast and sort of filter and prioritize. And so the more you can just target your message to something they can digest really fast, and don't overhype, don't include everything. I've gone to trade shows where, I have a 15-minute appointment with somebody, and they'll say, let me take you through the 400 features of our new software update. It doesn't doesn't stick. It doesn't do anybody any good. Like I remember the first thing they showed me, which was like some screen color change or something, and then
yes.
It's you glaze over, and the same thing happens with bands. If you can't overhype, don't use too much hyperbole. You might think your band is the best band ever, the product, but let the journalists make their own decision. Journalists don't like to be told what the best of anything is. They
So
like
true.
to figure that out themselves.
Oh, that's so true. Well, tip number 4, you say make the journalist's job easy, which is like the job description of PR. Hopefully, what do you,
right.
let's hope so. So, what do you mean by that?
I think the way that manifests itself in the communication is, if you're pitching, if you're showing a journalist your new record or your new microphone, keep it short, but also have photos ready, have press clips, have access to that information, have links. So, if you wrote to me and said, this is my new band, maybe I'll check out your YouTube video, or maybe maybe your band's coming to town to San Francisco and they're going to be in town next week. And if you tell me, put me on the list and I'll go check them out. You just want to remove any roadblocks to the information.
True. Yeah. Oh, that's so true. That's, hey, I always tell people, I say, it sounds like a glamorous big old job, but really what we do is we're editorial assistants. We always take that earn our way into the media very seriously. And the work that we put in is, as on the PR side, is to, try to make it as easy as possible. And the person who does that, and still has a good story, has a better chance of getting the story.
Yeah, and journalists are wild cards too. Not everybody's going to respond the same way, or as positively, or as effectively as you would like either. So you just have to be able to just be as flexible as possible in that sense. Yeah,
absolutely. Your 5th tip is, you say, just chill.
Yeah. Don't pester people. It's like any relationship, you're sort of in it for the long haul. You want to be someone that people want to work with. You don't want them to avoid your call. If you send a press release and then call 5 times, I can guarantee you that no one's going to pick up your call. No. Just simple. Maybe, send a follow-up, maybe 2, but be easy to work with. And if someone says no, it doesn't necessarily mean never. It means no right now. Something might not be right. It might be that they would come back to you and say, hey, I've been thinking about that story. Maybe I can use this now as part of my summer focus, or, whatever kind of new angle they have. So don't assume a no is a forever no.
Yeah, so true. And one thing that I always tell PR people that I'm training is I say, sometimes you kind of want to know. I mean, a no is better than not knowing. I would certainly rather, and I said, so you have to kind of make an environment where it's comfortable for you to get that no. If you're going to cry, if you're going to cry about it every time, then they're just never going to respond to you. If you want to get a dialogue going, then be an adult and go, this doesn't fit. It doesn't mean you hate me or that you're not sending me a Hallmark card.
You have no idea what other factors are driving that decision. You're right. And, there's been a lot of people who are just like, oh gosh, I can't call them because they're going to be, they're going to try to talk me into it even after I say no. Like, you're right. Be willing to accept it and think long-term.
Absolutely. Well, that's her 5 top tips. We're talking about the fake news, and journalism was created to serve the public trust. It was created to be our watchdog, our well-informed friend, and our trusted resource. But there's no question that modern journalism has lost or is losing its way. PR depends on the media being able to be trusted, so there's quite a few eyes on this situation. Sarah, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, and we can all look forward to more of your great writing and content in the music space for many years to come. Thank you so much for being on the show, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
See you later.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Entertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists. using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al DiMeola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?